This episode of Super Boothers is brought to you by the Photo Booth Expo in Las Vegas this coming March 12th to March 14th, 2018 at the Westgate Hotel and Casino. Visit photoboothexpo.com and use promo code SUPERB2018 for a key pass or SUPERB2018E for an exhibits only pass. See you there.
Hello and welcome to Super Boothers. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Ismail.
We were just talking about The Crown and Downton Abbey and all of our Netflix binges.
I don't watch those shows, so...
What do you watch?
I mean, this is about photo booths, okay? Do you want to know about what I watch?
I want to know what you watch on Netflix.
What's on Netflix? You know, I like Peaky Blinders.
Blinders?
That's not something that a lot of people know about that I thought was awesome.
Yeah, that's Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, right?
I don't know his name.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's a great show. Obviously, House of Cards.
Oh, not anymore.
Oh, yeah. A lot of things happen in there.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. I didn't watch season 2 yet, but I'm going to watch that.
Another one I just saw was The Founder. That's the McDonald's movie.
That's a movie. That's not Netflix.
That's still on Netflix, though.
It's a movie, though. I thought you were talking about Netflix originals.
It is on Netflix.
You have to clarify things, please.
I quit. I'm done. Super Boothers is canceled. No, so this is the thing. I just saw the movie The Founder, and I really enjoyed it. And truthfully, I thought it was going to be stupid. Like, I didn't realize it was such a good movie.
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out. I really liked it. I actually love books and movies about that kind of stuff, like biography stories about founders and how they grew businesses. I thought it was great.
It is the most cutthroat business movie I think really that kind of ever existed outside of Vegas movies.
More than The Social Network?
I didn't care for that. They're just stupid.
I'm talking about the cutthroat part.
That was not cutthroat compared to what happened on The Founder.
All right, so what are some of your takeaways from The Founder?
I like money. I like McDonald's burgers. No, so this is the thing, is it tells a story, and Michael Keaton plays whatever his name is.
Ray Kroc.
Sure, Mr. Burger. And the way how it goes is he was selling, I guess, milkshake blenders. Yep. And he gets a phone call, like he's literally going door to door to these diners selling these milkshake blenders. And he gets a phone call from his secretary who I guess like they're going into debt and he's dodging people's phone calls. And he gets a phone call and he goes, I guess the secretary said, someone wants to place an order for 6. And he's like, what? That's not right. What's the number? Calls this guy. He says, this is McDonald's. You know, how can I help you? And he goes, yeah, I just got a call from my secretary saying that you wanted 6 milkshake blenders. He's like, that must have been a mistake. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. You know, I think we're going to need 10. And he's like, what? Like, who are these people? So he flies over to California where I guess this is happening and sees like this little operation that they've created, which I guess was called the Speedy system, where you would go to a counter, order the food, and it's there within 5 seconds. This is something that is just so new to, or so common to us now with every single restaurant. But back then,
it was innovative.
It was very unique in that you didn't have to wait around for your food. It was already made. So it was a little interesting to see. I love the part. So I guess they were on a part where they were on like a basketball court and they outlined in chalk like where all the stations would be and like how to minimize movement. So like a burger would go from here to here to here to here within, 90 seconds. It's just insane how they perfected that. And actually how they perfected it so quickly because he said it only took him like 6 or 8 hours to do it.
I love those little anecdotes that seem so weird. But if you really study these people, those weird actions, those people that do the weird things are the ones that really make it. It was on a tennis court. Like, Who does that? They go on a tennis court, they draw in chalk an outline of a kitchen, and they mimic cooking food just in air for hours.
Yeah, it was just so, what seems so crazy at the time is just in what ended up becoming so groundbreaking.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me, and I watched this a while ago, so I don't remember all the details like you do, but I was really taken aback by how Ray Kroc got his start in McDonald's much later in life.
Yes.
So I don't remember his exact age, but he was up there. He was like in his 50s, I think, when he first found them.
Same thing with Paula Deen. Paula Deen wasn't anything until much, much later.
To me, that's something that I take note of because I'm very ambitious. I'm very hard on myself, and I'm looking up to all these people. It's really...
Because you're so short?
Yeah, I'm very... What? You're the short one.
They don't know that. This is radio.
So to me, I like to see that not only did he find it later in life, he never gave up. I mean, he was jumping from one thing to another for decades. And on top of that, I don't know if you noticed in the show, he was really listening to self-development on those long drives. Like the Tony Robbins, or who was it back then? I forgot the guy's name, but the guy who mentored Tony Robbins.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, so he was listening to all that and never letting himself give up. And eventually he stumbled on McDonald's and saw that it was something very different and a huge opportunity.
There's a documentary with Joan Rivers called A Piece of Work. And in there, one of her managers was making a comment how, I guess he was working with Richard Pryor. And he was saying how, like, you know, all of these comedians back then would work and work and work and work and work. And then they'd hit. Mm-hmm. And then they would become these gigantic industries. And, like, that's the thing is Joan Rivers became an industry. I mean, jewelry came and, you know, all the TV shows came and all that other stuff. The analogy that was made was you can't get struck by lightning unless you're standing out in the rain. And no one can stand out in the rain longer than Joan Rivers. So that's the thing is you can't win the lottery if you don't play, for one, and you can't become successful if you're not working.
But think about how difficult that is. A lot of people don't have the patience to last long enough.
Or the stamina.
The stamina, the patience. It's very difficult. You've got other pressures. You've got bills. You've got a spouse that's like, come on, man. Are you still selling those milkshakes or still lugging that booth around? Why don't you do a real job, right? It's very difficult. So people that are listening to this, that are going through that maybe don't have supportive friends or they're going through struggles, I found it inspiring to see someone like Ray Kroc who never let that get to him. He just kept going. He kept going. He believed in himself. He kept working on himself. It's not enough to just keep going. He kept working on himself, learning, improving his skills, listening to self-development on those long drives. I think that's a real important takeaway. And the other main thing is it's never too late. Don't give up.
You know, I think that in our industry, let's just call it the events industry and just really, really, really generalize it. It is a lot of people's second, third, and fourth careers. Like, it is generally like something not they started out doing. It is technically my first career. I've been doing this since I was 17. And one of the big things is I think that you learn a lot in other industries that you're in and be able to bring that to this particular industry.
One of the things that this movie was really, you know, got attention for was how brutal Ray Kroc was. So it was kind of painted in that way in the movie that stereotypical, you know, greedy businessman butting in and taking over. I'm curious to hear what you thought of how brutal he was and what he did.
You don't get to have a couple $1 billion and be a nice person. I mean, that just...
But that's an interesting topic because, you know, I've read this biography of Steve Jobs. I've read John Rockefeller. I've read a lot of these very successful people in history. And I can't help but notice that they have a mean streak. They're bullies. They're brutal.
Yep.
And I wonder. Ryan, I don't know if you're that brutal, but you have a little bit.
He just called me a cyberbully a minute ago.
I wonder, is that really necessary? Is it okay? Like, how do you view that?
I view it as separating the emotional from the business. I can separate the two. I have told people, screw you, go to hell, where are we going to lunch? I have relationships like that with people. And I think it is only, first of all, you have to have a thick skin. I have
a very, very, very thick skin working with Ryan. I mean, it can't get any thicker. Just throwing that in there, but continue.
He has little, like, sad face crying emojis whenever I tell him, like, he has a call time. No, but this is the thing is, I will say this. I have been working on myself. 6 years ago, I was not a nice person. And I absolutely know why I was not a nice person. Is because I remember I walked in and I had like $25,000 due to American Express in like 5 days. And I'm hustling, trying to find the cash, trying to like make up like the difference of whatever, just because it was, I mean, we were making a lot, but we were also spending a lot. I walked in, my 2 assistants were bickering at each other. I went in there and I was letting them, they were talking, they were doing their thing. I just went to my office. They were out there for 10 minutes going at one another. I walk in the door. I don't have time for your bull. I do not have time to have you and you hash out your personal problems in work. This is a place of business. We have things to do. And it was only because I had so much pressure on me. And it was largely in part based on all money. It was all money. I was not a nice person because there was so much money that I was responsible for and so much product and work that had to be done that was resting entirely on me.
I mean, I've never been in the position of Steve Jobs. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure, and maybe that affects how your demeanor is. You're very negative. You're very mean. But I think it's a troubling trend now that people take those stories of those few people that became titans and that they're mean and think it's okay to be a jerk. And I think that that's a troubling trend. I think you have to earn the right to act that way. Not that it's okay to act that way ever, right? But you can't just be a jerk at 21 years old because you started a little company in your garage.
Called Facebook.
No, you can't do that. You have to get to a certain level where you have all these responsibilities. There's people depending on you, where I would even consider it being okay for you to be that mean. I don't really admire that. I believe that it's okay. You have to be that way, personally. I know a lot of very wealthy people in my life that are really nice people, and I admire them more. They're not Steve Jobs.
You know, I think it really goes both ways. I think that if you have things to do, if you have a goal, people are getting in the way of that goal.
All right, so here's where I'm going to take this. Ray Kroc, he was painted as a very brutal person. I think McDonald's would never have gotten to where it is or where it was without him.
So wouldn't have.
He was the guy who did it. Was he a jerk at times? Yeah, but he did what was necessary to grow the company.
Absolutely.
He had all these ideas. I remember one thing that he was talking about was the smoothies. The McDonald's brothers didn't want to do the smoothies with the powder because it wasn't original milk. But you couldn't scale the milkshakes because you needed freezers. It increased the cost.
Yeah.
So he had the business understanding
cost prohibitive
to know that would never work. So he went against them. He was painted as a mean guy, but it worked.
Yeah.
However,
they eventually went back to whatever once they made up enough money to pay for all the stuff.
However, at the end of the movie, he opened up a competing location directly across the street from those guys. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think about that?
Good for him.
No, come on, man.
You know what?
That is totally unnecessary. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
And I want to watch them squirm. That would just be me.
You only have the opportunity because of them. They created what you scaled.
They prevented him from really taking the company where it needed to be and where it could be. They had these things called morals and principles. He didn't have that.
It's a little too small for me. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, really. You're going to go back to the 2 brothers that first gave you this idea and crush their only location?
Absolutely.
Why?
Why not?
I don't know, man. That's messed up. Whoever's listening to this right now,
cockroach dead to me.
I want you to go in our Facebook group and tell us who you agree with.
And for that reason, I'm out.
You're dead to me. That's just too brutal.
But this is the thing is, I think that, I'm not sure if I actually would do that. If I was maybe in a bad mood and needed to cheer myself.
Look at Ryan backpedal.
No, I'm not backpedaling.
He's doing the moonwalk.
If I needed to if I was depressed and I needed to a little pick me up, you know what would really make me happy? I'm going to open up a competing location with these people and just really put them out of their misery. I mean, sure, that would make my day.
I just thought it was too much. Totally unnecessary. You didn't get anything out of it.
Well, this
That's
is
just being mean just to be mean.
Something happened with his first wife. The first wife didn't get anything, did she?
I don't think so.
See, that's the part where I would get screwed. I wouldn't appreciate that. That's the woman that dealt with all your crap. She should get something. I get the brothers. I have a problem with her.
Anyways.
As I told your wife, grab and take.
Anyways, don't be a jerk. Super Boothers should not be jerks and follow what Ryan is saying. But I will give Ray Kroc credit. It would never have gotten to that point without him. He was brutal. But he did what it ever had to be done to get to that point. And I just want to tie this to a book, because I like to read. There's a famous book called
a highlights magazine you're not reading.
No, there's a famous book called The E-Myth Revisited, and it's all about this topic of why 90+% of small businesses fail. And the reason that this guy drills into is that people who start companies are specialists in something that they enjoy. For example, the McDonald's brothers loved making burgers.
Yeah.
They were amazing at making burgers and making the Speedy system. Amazing. But what they lacked was business savvy.
They were too close to the business, and they weren't able to look at it objectively like he could.
But this applies to everything. The baker who makes amazing pastries but doesn't know how to do marketing, how to know his numbers, and how to hire people.
Or even to scale.
But that's the number one reason people fail. And I think as a photo booth owner, I see a lot of people harp on, the photography quality of pictures. Not saying it's not important, but you don't want to...
Please don't open up this can of worms.
You don't want to fall... I'm on a roll here. Let me go. No, you just don't want to fall in that trap of not thinking business and only thinking skill. I'm not saying it's not important. You should have great quality photos, but the high-level message I'm trying to communicate is that the reason people fail as a baker, as a chef, is because they only know how to bake and chef. Don't be that person. Focus on the business. If you can't do the business, if you don't know how to do the numbers, hire someone who can.
Find someone to do it for you.
That is the only way you'll succeed. If you do not do that, you will fail.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Go on our Facebook group, Super Boothers, the Photo Booth Business Podcast. Please send me your questions online at superboothers.com. Click Ask Super Boothers. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.